Thank you very much, Mr. Olekas. To conclude the debate, this joint debate indeed, we'll be hearing from the Vice President of the Commission, High Representative for Foreign and Security Policy, Mr. Borrell.
Thank you very much. How much time do I have, Mr. President?
Well, you're not a member anymore, so you don't have any official speaking time. The Commission can speak as long as they wish.
Oh, très bien.
Excellent. That's excellent. Thank you very much. Well, I will be speaking Spanish now, which is my language, such that I can be extremely frank and fluid in my comments to you. I think taking three debates like this, bringing them all together on such important subjects, well, each individual subject would merit a debate, but if we look at the report on human rights and democracy around the world, well, that would merit a extremely comprehensive debate because the importance of this report is immense. It's not simply going to be able to quickly resolve problems just by having read the report, of course. But this is the most important report, I think, of its kind that we've ever seen. It's also important for us to be fully conscious of the fact that we are explaining what is happening in the world, of course, and many, I think, have said that. But in addition to that, we must be ready to act. That is why we came up with a new action plan that will cover the upcoming 4 years. The purpose of this is to be able to make sure that our activity is not something that comes down to just drafting a report explaining what is happening, but rather it is a role of correcting things and affecting change in things. Now, we have a special envoy for human rights that is going to be playing a crucial role in the implementation of this plan. Now, I understand fully all of the limits that will exist to the role of this envoy, and I am sorry to see that some of the members here shifted the debate from the objective of the report and rather looked at what was happening within the European Union, and that was not at all what was at the heart of this report, nor what was at the core of this debate. Now, there are some, I think, concrete references that have been made, specifically our participation in establishing an instrument within the United Nations, one that would be legally binding to defend human rights. Unfortunately, we do not have a mandate from the Council for that purpose. We're being a part of the establishment of such an instrument. We believe that it is absolutely necessary, and we are working in the consultations on this subject informally, much like we did recently in the month of May in Ecuador. And we will also be a part of the one that will be taking place in October. We continue to uphold the importance of this instrument, but unfortunately we do not have a mandate from the Council to be a full-fledged part of these negotiations. We have also decided to renew the mandate of the Special Envoy for defending freedom of religion that will work in direct concert with our Special Representative for Human Rights. And this is one of our priorities in terms of upholding and defending human rights. Freedom of religion is something that is threatened in many corners of the world, and in many cases it also has an impact on European citizens. And in many cases there is a violation of that freedom when it comes to those who practice Christianity, when it comes to the issue of human rights activists and the defense of them. We know that this is absolutely a relevant issue, and that was put in a question. I think that the member states, with the delegations that we have in those places, are working very closely. We know that it's the member states who are guiding us here if they want to give us the guidelines for this purposes, and we are doing this through our delegations. What we're specifically doing is having a constant contact between the embassies of the member states and the human rights activists who are currently under threat, such that we can make sure that the member states can intervene where necessary, by the member states, of course. And then there was also the issue of what the Commission specifically has said and how consistent we are being in our will to assist the defenders of human rights in every single way that we possibly can. Mr. President, I would like very much to be able to have time to go into every single aspect of this report. Of course, I will not have the time to do that this morning, and I will move on to the next issue that was up for debate today.
But obviously, I would like to make it very clear that when we're talking about defending human rights and democracy around the world, this is such a broad field, and it's almost never ending. It covers all sorts of different aspects, and we can see this in this particular field. When we look at the respect of human rights, the respect of democracy, we have seen that around the world there are new autocratic regimes, new autocrats, and to the outside world it looks as if these are democratic regimes, but when you look behind them, they are not. So I think it's absolutely essential that we continue doing this work, and that we continue to do so with the support of members of the European Parliament. And this is why I feel that this report should have been the subject of a single individual debate. Now moving on to Turkey. Honourable members, I do understand very many of the comments that you have made, but I think there has been another dimension, as it were, floating over this hemicycle today. And I almost saw Pope Pius V about to call up another fleet, as it were. I'm not intending to be either Dandelier or Chamberlain, nor St. John of Austria. So please don't turn to me, because obviously Crusades, that belongs to another epoch of history. We're not looking for confrontation. What we're trying to do is avoid any kind of confrontation. And this is why, on a number of occasions, and the most recent occasion was in Ankara in Turkey, this is why I have spoken in very firm terms, i.e., when it comes to the defence of territoriality, the sovereignty of countries who feel that some of Turkey's activities are illegal, for example, these exploration activities. At the same time, obviously, we realise that we cannot change geography, and we do need a constructive relationship with Turkey. And obviously, this means that we have to avoid an escalation of tensions, we've seen that there's unfortunate incidents at sea between warships, Turkish and from a member state of the European Union, and both of these countries are members of a military alliance, of NATO, and the incident is being investigated by NATO, which is the appropriate place for any investigation. But obviously, we do have to prevent this happening again. So, as I said, it's not a question of drumming up a holy alliance to fight an Ottoman invasion, which is what some of you seem to be suggesting. What we have to do is be far more constructive in the face of a highly complex situation. Mr. Sanchez-Amor and Mrs. Loiseau highlighted the fact that this is a complex situation. What we need is some kind of process which does include negotiations, and we know there are aspects to the relations between the European Union and some of its member states and Turkey, and we need to negotiate. There are very many problems which have to be solved, and we do need to find a solution to these problems. And I think we should be able to solve them through negotiations with our ally, but obviously we have to negotiate firmly. What we have to avoid at all costs is an escalation of tensions, because that would just further aggravate the situation. And this is what I am trying to do. And I will continue to try to do so, and with the support of my colleagues in the Council, the Foreign Affairs Council. And next Monday, the Foreign Affairs Council will have Turkey as a point on its agenda. And it was with a view to this discussion that I did, and preparing for this debate, that I did travel to Turkey and Greece and Cyprus. On Belarus, President, then there I can only agree with everything that has been said. Right from the outset, we have said that there is this election campaign, and we've highlighted the various incidents that are of concern to us. And obviously, when it comes to repression, violation of human rights that's being carried out by the Belarus regime, we condemn that. And we have sent out warning messages. And we have done this through the formal channels, i.e. where the European Union adopts a position on certain matters. At the same time, however, we do have to stay in touch with the civil society. We have to stay in touch, maintain contacts with Belarus so that we can react in the face of what's going on. And obviously we have to think in terms of our relations, the relations of Belarus and its citizens with the European Union. And none of this is incompatible. It's perfectly good to defend our position and our commitment to the fundamental and human rights of the citizens of Belarus, the sovereign nature of the country, but then one and the same time be involved in contacts with civil society and maintain the channels of communication open. This is very similar to Russia. Quite a lot of you have asked why it is that we continue to finance Turkey with pre-accession monies. Well, obviously, since 2017, the pre-accession funds have been cut to the tune of, we have now 1.3 billion euro. And if we take a look at the current allocation of monies, the money is there to work on promoting democracy, support of human rights, support of civil society, where we have 160 million euro, 18 million for rural development. But at the moment, no pre-accession monies have been assigned or allocated to economic matters, because, as I have indicated, there have been drastic cuts to the funds as a result of Turkey's actions, and the Council felt that their actions are not in line with the actions of a pre-candidate country. And we have used the instruments that are at our disposal, but you should not mix these things up. We have the pre-accession funds, and then we have the funds that are there to support the exiles, Syrian exiles, I'd rather call them that than refugees. 3.5 million people do represent quite a burden for the host country. And we are spending this money to facilitate the fact that Turkey is taking in these people, to finance schools, to finance education. What is wrong with that? How can you expect us to stop financing this? We have to continue doing this. And only recently, and the Parliament is looking at this as well, there is the possibility of a further €500 million for Syrian refugees. This isn't money for Turkey. This is money that goes directly via NGOs who are working in the field and through UN agencies as well. This money is there to alleviate the desperate situation of Syrian exile. So that's not something that you can criticise. It's not a kind of exchange between us and Turkey. This is absolutely essential, this money. We have to continue with our efforts to provide aid and support to these people, and we do exactly the same in Lebanon and Jordan. And when it comes to Belarus, I share your views on the situation, where the situation I think is more serious. It is true that we do have somewhat limited actions to intervene. We've done everything possible with the instruments at our disposal, so obviously we'll be keeping an eye on events, and the Foreign Affairs Council will take a look at this and take the action required. But when it comes to this third point on the agenda, then all I can say is that I do fully agree with everything that the members have said and the way in which they have said it, when it comes to the situation in Belarus. Honourable members, thank you, and President, thank you for giving me time to speak. I would have liked a little more time, but I think I have managed to give you a summarised response, especially to all the questions and comments that the honourable members made on these very important matters.
Vielen Dank, Herr Kommissionsvizepräsident.
Thank you, High Representative, Vice President. That brings the joint debate to an end. The meeting is now adjourned until 14:15, and I would like to wish you a very pleasant lunch.